to the start, back to the start. Life was so much better then, I'm never coming back again. Back to the start, grab my guitar. Back to how I used to be, I'm coming back to rescue you and me. Dukey, I ain't singing no more for you. I'm proper pissed off with you now. Proper pissed off. You had the gorgeous Bruce Thomas in your studio, and where was I? I wasn't around, was I? No, I was up north, wasn't I? Out of London, wasn't I? Checking on me pigs, wasn't I? And I got to miss him. And you know I love the Bruce Thomas, you know I love him. He's got that beautiful flaxen hair, he's so gorgeous. You couldn't have rearranged it, made sure I was here. And he had that other musician with him. Who was that? The Spencer. I saw him on the interweb. And he looked gorgeous and scrumptious too. And I didn't get to meet him neither. And he's sexy, isn't he? He's sexy just like the Bruce Thomases. There's a couple of gorgeous sexynesses.
Dukey Radio Show. Hello. With me in the studio, Marsha MacDonald.
Yeah, peeps, what up?
And Sylvia Shoshana Silversmith.
Shoshana? Dukey, I can't even say Shoshana. That's amazing. I wish that really was my middle name.
What is your middle name?
Yes.
Annabelle.
I wish it was Annabelle. Wish it was Annabelle. That's a very pretty name.
Elizabeth.
Dukey! You must have seen it somewhere before.
No.
You must have seen it on, like, some mail that I've had or something. Because I never use my middle name. Does anybody use their middle name?
A number of people. James Paul McCartney does. Paul is his middle name.
Nobody knows Paul McCartney as James Paul McCartney except you, Dukey, because you have that brain of yours.
And John Michael Stipe.
Yes, same goes. Same goes, Dukey.
And Erasmus Spencer Brown.
I don't even know who Spencer Brown is.
He's one of the guests on this Dukey Radio
Show.
I'm
sorry. Spencer Brown, I didn't know his last name.
Right.
I didn't know his last name.
Right.
Because I wasn't here. Much like the very, very angry Irene, I was away as well, so I wasn't able to kind of nip round to the Dukey Radio Show studio to see these lovely people.
How dare you?
I've met Bruce before, and he is lovely.
Absolutely.
He
lovely
is
man.
Very lovely.
A lovely man.
He
and
is scrumptious.
He is now a record holder for the most number of appearances on the Dukey Radio Show.
Did you give him some sort of like a award or something? You should.
I gave him a hug. That's an award.
Well, I don't know, but is it like a certificate? Like the Guinness Book of World Records doesn't come around giving people like, oh, you just walked a tightrope across, Sydney Harbor. Here, we're going to give you a hug. I tend to agree with Sylv on this one, Dukey. I mean, a hug. I mean, come on.
So now I'm going to feel guilty.
Yeah, I think you should. And Spencer.
Yes.
I agree with Irene as well. He does look very scrumptious.
Erasmus Spencer Brown.
Is that really his first name?
It is now.
It is now. He looks very scrumptious. I like their music muchly.
Their album is absolutely phenomenal.
I mean,
it is
Irene,
really good.
Irene possibly wasn't doing it justice, but I have heard the actual song, and it is very, very good. So they're both talented and scrumptious.
Yes, it's the ideal combination.
It's very ideal. So lots of scrumptiousness in the Dukey Radio Show studio with yourself and Molly the Sprawly, of course. So, Dukey, I hear through the grapevine that you had a little flutter on the GGs with Bruce and Spencer.
Correct.
Never had you down for a gambling man.
I'm not. I like Kenny Rogers, don't get me wrong.
Oh, I used to love that song. I had that song on cassette. I used to play that. I played the shit out of that cassette. To where you had to get out the pencil to rewind the tape back in. Remember when you used to have to perform surgery on your cassette because the tape would start going all... Anyway.
Well, it would get fluttery, and we had a flutter.
What is with that word anyway? I hate that word. It had a flutter on the GGs.
Yes.
Where does that come from?
I'm not sure about the derivation of it.
I don't even know where I got that from. I think I read it in like a really old book somewhere. You had a flutter on the GGs. Was it actually the horses?
Yes.
Not the dogs?
No.
I bet you don't gamble on dogs because it would upset you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like greyhounds and whippets. Well, I like horses as well. I love all animals. I love everybody.
You went to... How did that come about?
Now, Dukey Radio Show preparation usually involves tea and banter.
Yeah.
And, occasionally, some bickies, biscuits, if you will.
Yeah.
And this was a different kind of episode. And to cut to the chase, which sounds a bit gambling-like in itself.
It does.
Bruce Thomas and Spencer were talking about a horse, and Bruce in particular was extolling the virtues of a horse he had received a tip on, named Drumcliff. And
he had a tip.
He had a tip.
On a horse.
Yes.
Called Drumcliff.
And we pulled together our resources.
Right.
We went to a local bookmaker's.
Right.
Which may not share a name with a part of West London. I'd never been to it before.
Paddy Power?
No. As though there's a part of West London called Paddy Power.
Well, exactly. There was the joke.
Indeed. Yes. Buck. And Bruce was a man on a mission with a great deal of control.
Wow.
Spencer has an amazing knowledge of the statistics involved with this whole world.
Right.
Well, as does Bruce Thomas. And I felt as though I was in safe hands.
Dukey, it's like the manliest thing you've ever done.
What? Placing a bet?
Yeah, that because to me that's really manly.
Really?
That's like men do that.
Well, Bruce,
yeah.
Spencer, and myself were men.
You're men.
Placing a bet on a horse named Drumcliff.
Dukey, the pertinent question here is, you know what the pertinent question is, so go on.
Yes. Was that particular bookmaker's clean? Were there nice people there?
No.
Oh, no. Right.
The pertinent question
is there another question?
Did you win?
The dynamic of this particular interview you're about to hear is that...
Say you didn't win.
Everyone's a winner, baby, that's no lie. That's no lie. You never will. Just satisfied.
While we were recording our banter...
Yeah.
About an hour or so after we started...
Right.
Is when the 2 p.m. race was happening.
I gotcha.
And the thing that I like about Bruce and Spencer's attitude towards gambling is it's not about the adrenaline of watching the event.
Right.
With all, so-and-so's coming up, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Right? They just want to earn hard cash.
Okay.
I think they enjoy the statistics of it.
All right.
So at one stage during our banter, I, make reference to the fact that we had a horse that we needed to find out about.
So what you're doing here is this is a Drumcliff hanger.
Oh,
Boom,
yeah.
boom. How clever am I?
Oh, that's really solid.
That's pretty clever. So you got a Drumcliff hanger.
Yes.
So we're not going to find out until you're at 2:00 in the interview.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Although,
Although I have to say your poker face is shit. Okay. Dukey, your poker face is not very pokery.
I'm no Victoria
I hope you've never played
Cora.
poker.
No. I did it once and I was really dreadful.
I went to the dogs once when I lived in the United States, and I had a friend who was big into gambling on the dogs. And firstly, all I could do was worry about the dogs. So to the point where my friend got so fed up with me that she went to take me to the little pen where they hang out before the race to show me that they were wearing like little rain jackets because it was spritzing a little that night. So they had their little raincoats on, and she said, "Look at how well taken care of they are." So to try to allay my fears, and then I didn't have a clue what was going on. Because she was making the bets for me, and then she was saying things like, "Oh, you've just won $20," and I was like, "Did I? I have no." Did you know what was going on? Did you just give your money to Bruce and go, "Yeah, whatever"?
He gave me a breakdown in terms of what our winnings would be.
Okay.
And what we,
That's really smart because I
possibly,
just can't get my head around that kind of stuff.
He and Bruce and Spencer, they know their onions.
Oh, wow.
They know their horses.
So
they know their dogs.
How much did you bet?
That is for me to know and you to find out.
Oh, okay.
And but it was a minor flutter. The
minor flutter.
Yes.
You strike me as the kind of guy who maybe shouldn't gamble.
No comment.
Have you ever been to Vegas? Oh, you've been to Vegas because you played in Vegas.
I have.
Yeah.
I went. I won, I left.
Oh, right. Okay. Did you?
I was on
How much
tour.
did you win?
I won $15, or it was, like $15.75.
Okay, that's good.
And I only put in, I think, $2 in the slots.
Oh, you were on the slots?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
I went to a slot machine. When I first won, I left. I was in there for a total of 7 minutes. And then I debated whether or not I wanted to see Tom Jones. And then realised that
that's
£15.70
yeah, Jesus.
was not going to be enough.
Dukey, I have a problem with gambling because I was raised as a Methodist. And, once you're raised as a Methodist, it never leaves you.
It means that you have a problem with anything that's seemingly fun. And
yeah,
naughty.
so drinking, even though I drink. And so I have a real problem with gambling, like a real problem with it. But what I do, I kind of want to be one of those people that does the big casinos. Like I've just been reading about the painter Francis Bacon. The painter, not the medieval philosopher. He was a big gambler. Him and Lucian Freud. And they used to go to those big casinos in West London. He used to just carry like wads of cash on him and just bet wads of cash. And one time his biographer went with him and he just handed his biographer like a wad of cash to gamble with. And don't you want to just be like that where you're playing the blackjacks and the roulette and stuff like that?
Oh, certainly. I'd feel a bit like James Bond.
And that was in the days before cash machines. So what he had to do was he had to go back to his studio in South Kensington where he had bricks of like notes, like cash. He had bricks of them. So he had to have to grab a few of these bricks to go to the casino, to lose it all, to leave, to go back to his studio, to pick up some more cash, to go back again. That's dedication to gambling. That's not having like a little ATM outside the door. You know what I mean?
No.
I'd like to be like that. If I was going to be a gambler, I'm going to be whole hog about it.
Yeah, you're not going to do things by halves.
I'm not going to do it by halves. No way. If you're going to commit the sin of gambling, go all out.
Which is what we did with our little pool of money. With
see, my grandfather would say that you're a sinner. I mean, you're not, obviously.
Oh,
but that's what he would say.
I am.
Sinners.
Sinner.
Hi, I'm Spencer Brown. My favourite word is gusset.
My name's Bruce Thomas. That's it. I knew it was there somewhere. And my favourite word is epiphany.
Epiphany.
Oh, nice one.
So we've gone from a gusset to an epiphany.
Yeah, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive.
Well,
I'm sure there's a
indeed.
link.
It can be an epiphany to be confronted with the glories of a
gussetry.
gusset.
Gussetry, if you will.
Of gussetry.
Yeah, it can be. And I can think of many times it has been, but I'm not at liberty to discuss them here. It's not the right venue, really.
And with regards to your family lineage, Spencer, have gussets featured in the manufacturing of...
There's been gussets.
Gussets have
that's
appeared.
all I'm prepared to say,
Oh,
really.
fair enough.
Yeah. In my teenage years.
In
fair
fact, we
enough.
did have a song there are Gussets I remember in my life, though
Yeah.
some have changed, but we thought,
fair enough.
Some
well,
have
it's not
fought
going to
and some
work.
have
It's
given.
not going to work.
It sounds familiar. That does recall a song that I'm aware of.
Really?
Yes. It must be
I might have to go back,
subconscious.
yeah.
It must be
Yeah.
subconscious.
Go back to the drawing board on
maybe he
that.
wrote it. And
Yeah.
Bruce, the idea of an epiphany.
Yeah.
Did this epiphany happen when you met Spencer?
It's continual.
It's continual. A
can
continual
understand
epiphany.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's continually thinking, how did I end up with this joke?
I'm continually epiphanizing because it's
And I'm continually
It's-
gusseting. In fact, I'm gusseting right now as we sit here.
The band Spinal Tap, which
them.
centred around Derek St. Hubbins and Nigel Tufnell at its core, met in a way that is quite rootsy. I think they just saw each other and thought, let's meet up. The next thing you know, they formed the Originals, then the New Originals,
the
then the Thamesmen,
Yeah.
and then they eventually became Spinal Tap.
Of course, yeah.
That story centred
Squatney.
around Squatney.
Yeah.
And that's where it was, location, possibly a bus stop, and then they met up.
Yeah.
You met in a way which is very modern and detached from that.
Yeah, quite. We did.
we met in cyberspace.
You met
Yeah.
in the cyber world.
Yeah, we did.
But was it the Squatney corner of cyberspace,
I think
or its
it was.
equivalent?
I think it was. There was a fish and chip shop there, and we were just out getting our rocker chip for the Friday night. I think, wasn't it?
Well, we were both on the same site there, ordering our
microchips. Actually,
Yeah.
they were very small. But we met we were floating in cyberspace looking for a home, And,
Right.
The truth is, as you will see on the album, folks, there's a write up there that Bruce put together as a sort of a condensed version of the conversation that we had. And
He sent me one of his
I sent
songs.
the song
Right.
initially.
It all
said-
starts with a song.
He sent me a song. He was we friended on Facebook. He sent me a song. What do you think of this? And I said, well, actually, it's
terrible.
not bad.
Quite
Delete
nice.
it all.
It's not bad at all. And it sounds a bit like you could do this, you could do that. Oh, all right then, yeah.
So I went off, I
So
did
I
do
thought,
that,
he
and I did
sounds
do that.
like that's quite good guitar playing. That's not bad singing, and all the rest of it. And then it came back a little while later with, what do you think of this one? Well, that's not bad either. How many have you got? He said, 3 or 4. I said, well, there's an EP there, and then it became. Then one of the songs was called Back to the Start, and then there was a
found the
kind
demo
of
on the way up here today, funny enough, on my phone, believe it or not.
Right.
And it's me somewhere going. And saying, that's how it's going to go, something like that. And then the next one is back to the start. Back to the start. Back to the start. And then, Life was so much better than I'm never coming back again. Yeah, that's all I had. And then I worked it up from there. But I was surprised to find it on the phone.
And I used to get them in kind of advanced demo form,
Yeah,
I guess, didn't I? But then I could see, I don't think Spencer had ever pushed things to the next,
not in
level
that
in
way.
terms of arrangement and instrumentation and everything. So I would say it needs this, it needs that. It wants to sound like so and so. Chop that bit out. Do this at the end. Go, to get rid of the third chorus. It needs an intro. It needs, and then it'd come back with other stuff on. So it was all being back and stuff would be sent back and forth by email, and then eventually, as well, there's actually a theme beginning to emerge here. In fact, Back to the Start could be the, if people ever made albums anymore, which they don't, or concept albums or albums with records with a theme, this would actually be a good opening track because everything follows thematically from that and comes round full circle because there's a kind of narrative arc about going back to the, I'll get this bit over with now, about going, going back to when records were good, and then not getting stuck in nostalgia about coming back into the present, and so the record really should bring you out of that hankering for the past and getting on with things. Really,
it was quite strange too because in a lot of ways, I mean, the stuff that I'd done in the past, and obviously not being a spring chicken, I've been at it for some time with various. What was that? degrees of failure, and really one of the things Bruce said was true, in as much that I may have fleshed things out at home with, in demos I'd put drums on, I'd put a bit of bass or keyboards or whatever, but it brought home to me doing this album how much you need a producer and an arranger. You need somebody to say, yeah, you know what, that second verse is a bit weak, or they spot something that there was something you were saying about, notice your vocals don't warm up until like the second verse or something. So it was a case of, yeah, actually that's true. I need to get the same amount of push or whatever that I've got. Little things like that. And bit by bit, the I hate to say concept, but there was an overarching sort of story that seemed to be emerging. And every song, because I was writing on the fly with a lot of stuff, and it's quite weird because in one respect it seems as though it's quite nostalgic, it's talking about somebody's life as a musician. The irony is it's not all autobiographical. Quite a bit of it is just a story that was emerging as we went along, and as we were getting more sort of conscious about the fact that this actually has got a bit of a narrative to it, that we could kind of employ this and fit the songs around this story. And what, as we were just saying, I mean, the basic idea is that you're not so much going for nostalgia for the sake of it. You're actually talking about trying to find something that was in the past that you enjoyed about music and dragging it into the present day, and making that the key to it. It's not wallowing in nostalgia. It was to try and utilise the sort of sounds that you liked, the kind of approach to making music, the single length songs and that kind of thing, and bring that into a current time and now, if you like.
Yeah, well, that's there's a cover version at the end of the song which is there's a place, but that's the completion of the arc. It's there's a place, and in my mind, and there's no time. So the back to the start is not back to the past, it's back to the origin. It's like that's almost like a meditation. So it's an old song, it's an old Beatles song, one of the oldest, but it's saying, in my mind there's no time, there's a place, back to the start. It's actually, the place is now,
an eternal now,
the internal now. That's really
you meeting your earlier selves and earlier influences,
whatever,
in a way.
But I mean, you go in, when you go inside. Well, if you go inside, meditate, all sorts of past events get raked up, or speculations about the future, and there's something present to it. That's what we were kind of saying. There's a pivotal song on the album about embrace the past. It doesn't make any sense. Embrace the day, and so it's the flow of time and reconciling the past and the present's very much a theme. In fact, I got Spencer to rewrite one of the songs, which is now called "Get Up," and you'll see, get up, and you're already in it. Yeah. It's not about going back. It's about the fact that you're already in it. Yeah. You want to be a success, you already are. You want to...
I took a kind of a little bit of artistic license with that, of using, in the rewrite, using a drive my car kind of template, the idea of somebody who'd supposedly made it into some form of stardom or celebrity that I, or this fictitious character, let's say, supposedly knew from their past, and was looking for guidance from, show me how you did it, how do you do it? And her, as it happens, advice in the song is to say, you've already got it within you. You've just got to get up and do it. Get up and be it. And believe that you're it, and it will happen for you. And that I really strongly believe as well.
The original song was called Shut Up.
Shut Up?
Yeah.
Oh, so
and it was the exact one. It was like, get out of the,
It was a nasty, spiteful little song,
It was quite, and I said, this isn't going to work, I said you need to have another look at this, and I was I'm always banging on about this neuroplasticity stuff, and
which we explored in a big way during
the Bruce
our last
we did with the
interviews,
Bruce Lee book, so we won't go into that again. But positive thinking, for want of a better word. But it's our
character in the story, if you like. Bruce was talking about one of the songs just now, which is called Warehouse. It's called Warehouse, and in that the idea is that you're basically going through a file of memories, or a warehouse full of memories, and
an inventory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that, you're basically reviewing what's happened in the past, and that is the point where our narrator says, "I need to put this past away." And in fact, even in the middle eight, it's literally itemizing everything, old Christmas cards, old photographs, all this sort of thing, how we were. And now it makes no sense. There's no point in continually raking over this stuff. I know where it is. I know where to access it when I want it. I need to move on from this. And, our hero, as it were, closes the door on the warehouse of memories and says, "That's it. I'm not doing this anymore." And it's not a coincidence. And from there on in, his arc continues in an upward way.
It goes in a different direction, and
You're
on the bottom of the circle, and they're on the return loop, as it were.
Yeah.
So it's back to the start, is back to the past. Remember when you were young and skinny, and all those lyrics at the beginning. But then it's like, there's a place where I can go in my mind that's now. So, in fact, it's a very long version of that McCartney song that says, "Can you take me back where I came from?" which is pre when you were born, and pre-child, and pre-incarnation, if you like.
And the way that the album's been sequenced is that the first sort of third, if you like, is to do with remember when you did this, remember when you did that. And then there's kind of the middle section is all the life experiences, the trying to make it in music, the gigs, the noisy neighbours, even everything, all the modern sort of stuff going on. And then he comes to a stop and says, "That's
it's
it.
a regrouping,
I need to
isn't
regroup
it?
here."
Yeah.
And then does he or doesn't he, in No Business, after the track after Warehouse, he appears to have an 11th hour kind of epiphany. He has this kind of career that...
Good word, that.
Yeah, I like that.
An epiphany, I've heard that word before.
No, yeah. He has an 11th hour epiphany and a 12th hour gusset, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
It's the best hour to have a gusset.
If you're going to have one.
The midnight hour.
The midnight gusset.
The midnight gusset.
Yeah. And from that point, he maybe has a breakthrough in the wacky world of showbiz, and he ends up in a gold lame suit taking a bow. I think it's in his mind, actually, but it doesn't really matter. He's already seen it, and then he starts to be it.
Well, there's bits of, I guess, not fantasy, but it's just you're allowed to drift between reality and mental, and imagery and stuff, aren't you?
Certainly, yeah.
In art, the penultimate track is basically modelled on the Pretty Things on Ready Steady Go. It's a classic English beat group, even to the point of having Cathy McGowan allegedly introducing the
It just sounds alike, isn't it?
It just sounds a bit like
and you went for a lo-fi British television style.
That's it.
Our next group are great friends of mine, and they've changed their style on the next disc, and it's really great. Here are...
That's what they say. Every time I get some money, they take some more away. Mind the speakers, don't make ends meet. Contemplate a life of crime or begging on the street. But it doesn't really matter as long as we're okay. I said, hey, hey, just give it away. I said, hey, hey, give it away. Can't buy you loving, can't make you well. Look at all your millions, but you're living in self-made hell. Me and my girl, we got all we need. Maybe we ain't got money, but our loving is guaranteed. Doesn't bother us now, as long as we can say, hey, hey, give it away. I
And that's kind of extremely nostalgic, because that's the music I cut my teeth on. I love it and everything, but it's still about after the guy's become a success and he's made it, and it's just like, well, it doesn't matter if you've got money or not. The point of it is to give it away anyway.
Yeah.
The point is to not hang on to stuff. It's like, give it away, give it away, give it away. And which you have to do these days in the digital age, because no one's going to pay you for it anyway.
No, exactly. You are giving it away, literally.
You are giving it away.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point. It doesn't stop you wanting to do it. There's still the best fun you can have on four legs is making a record.
Agreed. Well, sometimes even on one leg if you explore some positions with or without a gusset.
Yeah,
and that would make it
that would make
That'd
a
be the
difference.
13th
that would be
hour.
a challenge. Yeah,
You've gone in for act number 2. I mean, in terms of concept albums, the first band that came to mind was Pink Floyd, who have a very different take on the rock star. It's a very bitter, cold and dark world in which people have medical issues and
but it was never meant to be a concept album.
No.
It was just that the song, I just recognised a theme, a thematic kind of approach to and then all we had to do was change one lyric to make it fit a kind of narrative arc, really. So it was I don't know if it was a subconscious process or what, but it all then kind of hangs together thematically.
Well, I think from the moment that Bruce said Back to the Start could be not only the title, but the kind of guideline for the album, we've got a bit of an idea here how to do this. And then we started talking about, like I said earlier, songs as they were being written, I was kind of mindful that, this does fit quite nicely into the don't want to say story, but if you like, that kind of idea. We didn't sort of massage the thing into a story either. It just seemed to fall into, of its own accord, something. And then we thought, now look at this. We've got this, and the sequencing began to sort of make sense of it. I mean, we were even talking at one point about maybe there could be a West End musical in this.
You could. It's thematic enough to write in linking narrative and make an actual musical play or whatever it's got a Mamma Mia potential to,
absolutely and also with the nature of the
you
songs.
could actually you could have a female protagonist or a male anything. It could be set in any era. I don't know, I think it's definitely got that potential though. But it was never written as a concept, but thematically it was. In fact, one song was written to order, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Little is a Lot. The rock, the pretty things, the rock, ready, steady, go one was
written to order.
There was one song that just didn't fit.
Yeah.
And I said, we can't. No, let's leave that one off. What
B-side.
else? Have you got anything?
B-side.
Have you got anything else in your, in the back catalogue, in the archives? Well, you sent me a couple, and I said no, you haven't.
What was the title? What was the title of the track that didn't make it? I think
it was called Hot One.
Hot One.
And then he sent me one called. He sent me one called Hole in the Heart or Hole in the Head. Which was very sort of scarish, wasn't it? And then another one called a very sort of
an impossible song that basically
a very
survives
sort of
without a hook.
It didn't quite. So
all old songs.
Do not speak ill of the dead.
Yes, no. So
well, you said it.
I mean, it was a bit like all the other songs. He'd send me songs, and I'd say, just once more for pitch, emotion, and tuning, and
and we go through
timing, and we've got it.
Yeah. It had to have something as a song to begin with, though. If it didn't pass,
it was instant. It was pretty. You wrote it in an hour, and I came and played on it all. Played on them all.
And from a logistical point of view, how did this all come together once you'd met in the virtual corner of Squatney? What was the timeline between realising that there was a synergy there and when you first actually met and collaborated together?
6 months.
About
6 months.
Yeah, I would say,
Yeah, the songs went backwards and forwards. I mean, I pulled out a few quotes from the conversation to put on the album sleeve, but I mean, you could, it'd be a large book, and it wouldn't all be about music either. No. There's a lot of. We tend to go off on a lot of tangents,
there's a lot of funny stuff too.
There's a lot of funny stuff and a lot of libelous stuff. And
I have been fits many times,
Libelous? Are we returning to the Gusset once again?
No, he says, you never guess what he's asked me to do now. He says to he said put a theremin on it. Put a bloody theremin on it.
Well,
you
not
never
only
guess
that,
it. And he does, and he goes,
Yeah.
you see, Spencer's come up with the two best words that you could ever come up with, if you're me, and that's, you're right.
There's also no charge. There's another one.
No charge.
That worked well, I must admit. Yeah, but
you're right. You're right.
An annoying habit he has of being right. That's the other thing, you see, that I'd go off and think.
We got to about 3 albums.
Theremin?
We got to about 3 songs,
Yeah.
and Spencer said, if you pass in my, the end of our road, do you
Happens to
fancy
be
coming and
passing.
stick bass on them? And I said, well, all right then, but we might as well just get 10 songs, and we'll do it,
at that point,
and
Bruce asked me if
that's when I said I'd basically play on the stuff.
Yeah,
right.
And then that's when I started, arranging things. Really putting maximum input, as it were.
The other thing was
him listening as well.
Yeah. The other thing was that at that point, when we first started talking about the sort of, and I was kind of edging my way to, if you happen to be like going miles out of your way to Hemel Hempstead from where you live, by any chance. At that point, Bruce said, "Well, are you looking to make an EP or an album?" And I was like, nah, definitely an album.
Upgrade,
and seize the day and all that. I thought, this is a big chance, because Bruce had been a favourite player of mine for many moons, and
he's got some potential as a bass player. We were saying off pod,
potential
I think he needs to stick at it. I've sensed good things.
Yeah, I think you've got
Bruce,
a future
take
on
stock
bass.
of that.
Yeah,
I think you're all right.
Yeah,
you're right.
You see how it worked. But
I've just had an epiphany.
We started, and eventually we arranged a date. We had a few false starts that Bruce could come down.
Did you have a diva moment or two?
There was all sorts of
tube strike.
Your Mrs. Hospital appointments came into it at one point, and all sorts of things.
Real life gets in the way.
Real life gets in the way of But I mean, when I have to say reciprocally that I mean, I get lots of stuff sent to me by Facebook friends and people, songs that they want remixed, arranged, play on this, what do you think of that and everything. It was the first time in many, many moons I've actually thought, I could work with this. These songs are okay. He sings, he can play, he can sing, his songs are good. Yeah, okay, let's I'll commit to this. Rather than just say, just send stuff to say, do this, do that, keep me out of it.
I mean, it's been a long kind of fairly schizophrenic career for me, really, because when I started out, like everybody does, it was kind of school bands, and there's been a double schizophrenia, a quadrophenia here, because on one stage I was in all the school bands, and then we went off on a tour of Germany and Holland and all this after we left school. Same band, we just kind of uprooted and answered an ad and went abroad. But whilst all that was going on, and there was also the curse of the day job was always upon me as well. I never quite completely sort of escaped that. I was always more into the recording and writing than just going out gigging all the time. Everybody that I knew was like, I'm just a rhythm guitarist, I'm just a lead player, I'm just a drummer. And I didn't really want to do that. I was always more intrigued by the recording process, intrigued by writing. One of the big things for me, there were two actually. One was reading about how the Beatles did what they called their layer cake style. And I'd already thought, well, what's to prevent one guy doing all this and putting everything together himself? And then McCartney's first album came out, and he'd done just that with a 4-track Studer, whatever you pronounce it, machine, reel to reel. Studer, yeah. No mixing desk. For some reason, he just went and did it all straight into the machine. And I thought, okay, so it could be done. You could be a kind of one-man band here, you know. And I spent many years doing that in, you know, with substandard equipment, horrible one-on-one reel-to-reel things that you could buy dirt cheap, where you literally just go over the thing that you've just done.
Mixing.
Yeah, rather than it being separate tracks. So I've got my, you know, a day job. I've got my gigs 3 or 4 times a week. And I've got this alter ego as, you know, this nerdy bloke who's doing all this recording at home. And none of those overlapped. They were all compartmentalised. And apart from the fact that I kind of gave up gigging gradually over the course of time, just kind of didn't really, there wasn't that much work around really. Not in that whole kind of, you know, middle strata of bands has kind of vanished over time, where you used to get your Friday night club gigs, your Saturday night pubs and all that sort of stuff. People now don't really seem to want it. They'll have music, or maybe a karaoke or a trib band or something like that. A DJ. Damn them. But, you know, that kind of went. So it just came down to, I do this to make money, to keep the family going, and I do this out of just the pure love. And, you know, there were a couple of near misses with songs that were recorded by, you know, we had like one by Bonnie Tyler and another one by Sam Brown, and singers and bands you would have never heard of. Two belters, but again, singers. You know, yeah, not much happened. One got released on an obscure German album. The other one I don't think even saw the light of day. It was a kind of, you know, I was the nearly man for many, many years. And when Bruce sort of came along, or I approached Bruce with all the songs, I sort of just, you know, it was like an advanced hobby with, you know, major passion behind it. But I had no
bit like me, really.
I had no real thoughts of like, this isn't ever going to, you know, get somewhere. I'm years of age now, and, you know, what are the chances that it's ever going to be anything? But this really has given me a whole new sort of outlook, a whole lease on life, you know. Apart from the fact of the music itself, is meeting Bruce is a massive influential person on me in my way of thinking with sort of personal life as well.
And he's right.
Always right as well. That's the main thing, you know. It's just,
it was uncanny though, uncanny. How what going back to that, what you think of as the most sort of crazy idea. Like, I mean, there's a song on there, the second track in It's Not You. It was the last but one song to be written, I think.
It was fair. It was near. It was near the end. You wrote it. Yeah.
And, that's probably the one that sounds most autobiographical and probably isn't, oddly enough.
I didn't want to be just friends. I knew too well the way the story always ends. We walked along the promenade. It wasn't hard to see the way that we could be, so we pretend. Now when I concentrate on you, I marinate the day in orange, beige and blue. You're not the girl you used to be, you never were. Now I can see it's just a blur, the 70s. And I'm thinking about you now, thinking of how we'd laugh at all the fools and how we never follow rules. And I'm thinking about you now, seeing you as you were at 17. I see right through this version too. I can't believe that it's not you.
But in the middle of it, there's a whole section about taking my songs to London, like where we are now.
Yes,
to see the A&R man. To try and get a deal, which I did hundreds and hundreds of times. and him saying, "We'll get back to you," you know.
Manchester Square.
That's it. Yeah.
An
Done all
office.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm that old that I even tried Savile Row, the Beatles, Apple.
Oh my word!
I took
you
a
genuinely
real-
do not look old enough to
thank
have
you,
had
but
that
I
as a
am.
possibility.
I took a reel-to-reel. Well, but in fairness, I was 14, and I took a reel-to-reel tape of my stuff up there. And this very disinterested secretary said, "I'll get it to one of them," you know. And
Right.
it's like,
Got Badfinger upstairs.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
James Taylor.
How about this?
Yeah.
I ended up working with the bassist of Badfinger, who was a telecommunications support and phone engineer. And that's where he went after Badfinger. He got thrown out of the band basically for having the temerity to have a baby with him and his missus.
God forbid.
I know. When they were put into, they were bought a house basically by the Beatles, by Apple, in Golders Green, and the whole band moved in. And basically they kicked poor old Ron Griffiths out. Lovely bloke as well. Because the baby was crying all night, and it's like we're all young and
You were talking about that second track.
I was
You've gone
talking
off on
about that.
tangent.
See, I am that
He
old.
goes off.
I am that old.
He goes off.
So anyway, yeah, the point of that was that in the middle there, the bit about going to London to see the A&R man, all this stuff. Bruce said, "Oh, you're on the train there. Let's have a train noise in. Let's have the old beep beep, you know."
Down to London on the train, dreams are starting on my brain. Played my songs to someone who said we will get back to you.
And it sounded amazing. It was like, and it was. There's even a bit of pratfall drumming afterwards, a brum, tsh kind of thing to underline it. You know?
When he did the original record, you see, he had a drum fill
drum
at the
fill.
beginning of the verse
Yeah.
where the bass comes in, and I delayed the bass entry because I thought it would be better coming in with the vocals
right,
rather
yeah,
than
yeah.
the instrumental. So I left 2 bars,
Yeah.
then came in, but he left the drum fill in.
Yeah.
So it says the middle 8 goes, "I played my songs to someone who said we will get back to you."
Said we will get back to you.
You know, as if
comedy.
you've done-
In other
yeah,
words,
so
dream
Not
on.
my view, my
a
sir.
Katish joke. So it's a sort of happy accident.
Yeah, but it was
But
that sort of thing. And,
so things like that happen,
Yeah,
when you're on a good roll.
and so many times there'd be things like that with, like, you know, theremins where you think, really, would that work in there? I don't know. And you try it, and the back.
But
of your neck
the
would go,
train
wow.
the train whistle works because the sound of the train whistle is exactly the same as the mellotron flutes.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the train whistle's going poo poo, and then the mellotron flute, the train's playing the tune for the rest of the middle 8.
Very strange.
So it's all kind of.
We had a
It all
lot of
ties in
You
together.
don't sit down and work it out.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. It's just go, oh, listen to that. Listen to what that's done.
There
you
was
know.
a lot. There was a real sense that the album was writing itself.
So
for
I
me.
think that's
There
what.
was a-
I think that's what happens when you're on the front foot. Is the things does itself, doesn't it? As
Yeah,
they say.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think, you know,
Absolutely.
serendipity reaches down for you and says, "Right here, I've got this too." You know.
Yeah.
You were talking about happy accidents,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I know that Spencer went off on a tangent,
Yeah.
but an example of another happy accident is where Mr. Griffiths, the bass player,
Yeah.
he was chucked out of the Badfinger house in Golders Green.
Yeah.
And then when you think about what happened to Badfinger and the members,
He
they,
maybe he was better off out.
yeah,
of it. Yeah.
it's not
absolutely.
so much Badfinger as bad luck.
Bad luck
Yeah.
finger.
So
Yeah.
he may have had a lucky escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gone on record quite a bit as saying, though, that he had the awful experience of riding his bike into BT and having which one was it? Come and Get It, the first one written by McCartney for them on the radio. He was listening to it on the transistor radio as he got to work, and it's like, oh my god, you know, I'm missing out on this. But as you say,
Yeah.
he who laughs, well, no, that doesn't sound right.
I'm
He
missing
laughs
out
last,
on
but you know
being
what I
ripped
mean.
off for all my royalties
Well,
and
indeed,
spending
yeah.
bloody hours on the road in
Yeah.
airports and not getting paid for it. And
Yeah, being massively
Bruce,
ripped off.
who
apparently.
knows?
what are
I
you
don't know.
saying?
I don't know.
How would have things have panned out?
I don't know how it panned out for them, but they certainly didn't have a good
It's
ending.
not a happy
did they?
ending.
No, Ron even had a final kind of last laugh as well, because here's a ridiculous story for you. For a little while, this is a real tangent. This is a
We like tangents
This
on
is
the
a
Dukey
He's
Radio
gone off
Show.
on a
And
tangerine
it's all-
again.
This
It
is
will
a
come
suspense
round.
special.
Everything will make sense.
Oh, everything will come
might.
round eventually.
Let's see.
His narrative arc is larger than the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like his eyes are bigger than his tummy, you know. It's like my arc is bigger than the story that I've got to fit it, I think. But yeah, basically this story is I was asked by a friend of mine, did I want to slot in on a bass gig one night? Because nobody wants a guitarist.
Nobody wants to play bass.
No one ever wants to play bass. So it's like, yeah, our bassist has gone walkabout. Okay, what's happened? Well, he's not all that well or something, or he's got the hump. We had a row. And I ended up playing for a band called the Wright Brothers for a little while.
Never
And
got off the ground.
Never.
Hey.
Oh, I was going to get there. Yes, the tangent was worth just.
it was
that
just
one
for
line.
that. That was it. That was the whole point.
It's a gift.
No,
So the Wright brothers.
the Wright Brothers. So I did a couple of gigs with them, and then it was Ron wants to come back. Wait, what? Who? Ron? Yeah, Ron Griffiths. He's our. Oh, really? Is he playing bass again? Whereupon I meet Ron properly for the first time, and he says to me, "Well, I'll tell you the truth." He said, "We've got something that's come up. I was going to leave the band, but I want to do this before I leave them because it could be something." Believe it or not, they are the band in 4 Weddings and a Funeral that play at the beginning in the
Marquee.
at the first wedding reception.
At the reception. The reception.
Yes.
An iconic film, one of the most popular films ever made.
Yeah, and Ron's very heavily featured in it. There's a slight kick to it. They found out that apparently the script called for a very bad band to be found. But Hugh Grant turned out to be a really nice guy and said, this band are too good, but let's keep them anyway, to the producer. So they said, right, they're fine, we'll do it. They had an amazing day there, and that was Ron's kind of last hurrah in music, because after that, he's really sort of done very much or wanted to, you know.
And in the words of the Partridge Family, I think I love this band.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
Well,
There we are.
Badfinger weren't doing anything in the mid-90s when that film came out, so
most of them were sadly departed
yes,
by then. Yeah.
Indeed, or residing in another realm.
Yes, let's put it that way. Yeah, that's nice.
The one thing which you mentioned earlier on is the track Get Up was originally called Shut Up. Had you been in a bitter place prior to meeting
Yes,
Bruce?
I had.
And
Although this was more of a personal thing against a person who should
bile.
be nameless. But I was just a bit hacked off with a certain person giving me a lot of bad advice, let's put it that way.
Right.
And I just sort of had enough of it. And because I didn't have the courage to say it to their face, I wrote it into the song instead. And then that person just kind of disappeared out of my life anyway. So it was all sort of just left hanging, sort of, you know, bile for no reason, basically. And that song seemed to, I don't know, I thought at the time it might have fit in a way with the character's kind of disappointment at what had been happening for him or not happening for him in music. But where it sits in the album now, it serves a far better purpose of saying something positive, which is that, you know, you don't have to be here. This is your decision. And like I said, you know, in the story, as it were, the character gets advice from a successful person about how they did it, which is an awful lot of it is how you think about it and how you expect it.
I'm an old romantic. I like to finish on an upbeat note. Really,
Yeah,
I don't
leave 'em
want
laughing.
to finish on anything too cynical or negative because that's not really the purpose of art. Even
No, exactly.
you know,
I
you
didn't
can
really-
say art, well, all art's self-expression, but you just which self are you expressing?
Yeah, you
your
don't want to
worst self
express-
or your better self.
Yeah.
So we're back to the
so, I mean, in a way, the transition from Shut Up to Get Up reveals a change in attitude and in direction.
Yeah.
Just
just a change of attitude or
Yes.
whatever, outlook, intention, change of intention. Yeah.
And it all, I mean, I just sat with the lyric and thought, what the hell how am I going to change this around? And like I say, I had the brainwave, if you like, of
drive my car in reverse.
Drive my car in reverse, exactly that, yeah. And one gear, yeah.
Mind the lamppost.
Yeah.
I mean, in London, you really don't need more than one gear for most of the journeys.
Yeah.
I can't speak for Hem or Hempstead, but
It's much the same.
you might, be able to go into second,
if you're
occasionally
lucky.
third if
Yeah.
it's after the Gusset hour.
Yeah, after the Gusset hour. That's where you want to head for that if you can.
I'd seen her face before, I even held the door. She turned and smiled as she walked through it. I asked her to confess the secret of success. She laughed and said there's nothing to it. Oh, you think that I'm a winner, now that I'm a so-called star. Then she told me over dinner, you could go far. Get up and seize the minute. Get up and listen to me. Get up, you're already in it. It's easier than ABC. Get up, you tiny dancer. Get up, and then you will see. Get up, I'll give you the answer. Believe it and it's what you'll see. Believe it and it's what you'll.
It was just a total rewrite, and then I sent it over to Bruce and he said, now you're talking. That's what we wanted, something a bit more uplifting,
How quickly would Bruce get back to you with feedback? How long would he ruminate?
We were
over
firing.
Instantly.
We were firing on
Back
the
and
plate.
forth.
Yeah.
Right.
By then it was a dialogue.
In minutes.
Yeah. So
Minutes.
I would send it as a file attachment and the song, and just sort of say, look, this is what I've got. Or in that case, I'd literally type.
I'd listen to it once.
Yeah.
Go do this. Then 10 minutes later, it'd come back with, right, now the next thing. And he said, is it bass ready yet?
Right, so that was your agenda.
We got to the, are these bass ready yet? I said, nearly. That one's bass ready now.
Right.
Because I was obviously pushing to,
because he was. I don't know. I don't think he thought I was going to turn up.
I wasn't convinced, I must admit. But over time, I started thinking,
one day
I'll get there.
Yeah.
And so you, in a way, you were maybe subconsciously trying to call his bluff.
Not so much call his bluff as just apply a little bit more sort of.
No. I mean, when
pressure to the Gusset.
I have to say, if I say I'm going to do it, I would. I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't mess anyone around like that for sure. But I was. But I have to know, for me, that when I say yes, that I'm not, cheating myself or him. So when I say yes, then I know I'm going to do it. You know. I didn't know quite how, it was going to be a bigger project and so on. And so I thought I was going to get, so involved because I thought, well, we might as well make the best of this. This could be upped to quite a good level. We could be a proper record, in fact,
Which it has turned into.
Yeah.
And a brilliant record at that. I absolutely love it. And it's retro tinged but not retrogressive. And it's not a pastiche. No.
It's an affectionate nod to classic single length pop songs.
And spanning many eras.
Steal from everybody.
And
Steal from the best.
Span time in your stealing. And you did just that. And also, you even stole from yourself on one track.
I did, it's true,
A bass line which sounds vaguely familiar.
Now she's there knocking on their door. This is getting crazy now. Two families of one noisy neighbor.
Was it you that said we must have been sitting there like naughty schoolboys grinning when I stuck that one in?
And was it like that? The whole,
exactly
like
was.
that,
I played it and I just thought we both went.
we're in B. Why not?
We're in the right key. We're in the right tempo. Let's just pump it up for a bar.
Just pump it up just for a little bit.
But it's not. It's a different genre of music, but it fits in. It slots in there.
Yeah.
And it's just that.
I mean,
sense
if
of
you
fun.
listen to the other bass line in it, is Knock on Wood. Have you spotted that?
No.
There's one.
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while we're
So
on the
it's so
subject-
there's quite a few quotes in, you know.
We may or may not have also put in some Pepper-esque moments as well.
Oh goodness, that's
Same track, yeah, same track.
Oh, there are quotes because that's what triggers people's you know, when I was doing dance records with my nephew, and we'd be listening to Basement Jaxx records and said, I want that bell sound. You know, bring. I said, why do you want that bloody bell sound? You've got a million bell samples. He says, I want that bell sound because people have already heard it on a hit record, and if they hear something going bring again, they think it's a hit record. It's a bit like the dogs salivating when they when they hear the bell. If you put direct quotes in now and again, it actually, you can't help but have the subconscious
Pavlovian
connection
response.
or even
Pavlovian.
conscious
It is
Pavlovian response, that's the word.
Yeah. So we put in a little bit of
there's a lot of Pavlovian stimuli in there.
And it fell into the
yes yeah, that's very much there.
We even had the galloping.
Well, you've got the good morning, good
the good
morning
morning
stuff,
style.
Yeah.
Were you eating cornflakes at that particular session?
Of course, yeah.
Good morning, the best to you each morning. Sunshine breakfast, Kellogg's cornflakes, crisp and full of sun.
Maureen loves Kellogg's.
Yeah, we wanted to go for full realism, you know.
And a very clever bit where he's talking about we used to be in a band, remember in the old days when we used to get paid, we used to play 8 days a week.
Back in the old days, when we still got paid, we used to play 8 days a week. The young and our man stood at the back end. Sometimes he even learned to speak, but the money rolled in as the talent ran out, and now nobody wants to know. But there's no business like any I know, like this one we call show, and it's no business of yours if I sigh and give it just one more try.
Yeah, it's all in there, folks. Yeah.
So
There's a real sense of fun and adulation for the past, but you know, the songs are really well constructed, irrespective of what may have inspired them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The songs are great. I found myself singing them while
Great.
making the tea the next
Yeah.
day.
Fantastic. That's
And
what
to
we
me,
were
that's
shooting
more
for.
important.
Yeah.
That's more important than, oh goodness, they used a sound which evokes the Beach Boys, or it evokes
hopefully,
track from Sgt. Pepper's.
yeah, theremin's good vibrations. You can't get away from you can't get away from that.
That's
you know,
forever tied to
but
it,
but it's a great instrument.
Yeah.
It's really expressive.
It is. It's amazing the effects it can. It's funny too because it's like for me, apart from good vibrations, it's always had that kind of Bela Lugosi sort of associate. And you think really?
Twilight Zone, isn't
Twilight
it?
Zone, yeah. But as you're saying,
Sci-fi.
But
used in the right
this is
setting,
played quite soulfully.
Yeah.
In with the backing vocals, it's like another backing voice, really.
That's it, exactly. Yeah.
Sunday, Monday, feeling stronger. Tuesday, Wednesday, one day longer. Soon I'll see you, soon I'll see you, soon I'll see you. So say you still care. I'm telling people everywhere you're coming home Thursday. And this time I'm sure you'll never leave it anymore. You're coming home Thursday.
extra level, another dimension to it, and you wouldn't necessarily think of using it normally, but it seemed to fit really well. You know?
Did you just have one to hand?
Just have one lying around.
As you do, as one does.
You know.
I'll dig out the theremin.
Couple of old irons, trouser press, there's your theremin. Yeah, let's put that in, you know. Yeah.
I understand the Corby trouser press featured quite heavily in this
that.
particular.
There's a lot of compression.
Yeah, you used it as the main compressor.
Well, we had a lot to iron out, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, sound-wise, you didn't want the trousers to be flapping too much. You needed to control the low end and the kick drums.
Exactly. Trouser it to me, as the Bonzo said, and we did. We trousered it.
And
we're back to the Gusset again. You realise that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, just
can't keep away
it's great. It's great. You know, normally you can't get a word out of him. Normally he's just like sits there. You've really brought out that side of the character.
You're right.
I don't know.
So you are having an epiphany.
Right,
the man can shout.
Yes, you're right.
And from a recording timeline point of view, I mean, Bruce was telling me off pod that it took a day.
Yeah.
Well, not to do. My bit did.
Right,
my bit contribution took 2 days, but I'd been at the, the construct. See, when I used to do session work in the past, and I learnt this is the best way to do it, is to put the bass on last, not simply to put the bass on the backing track last, or do that. The last thing when the record's been arranged, edited, mixed and everything. So you're basically playing karaoke to the finished record because that's the way you bind it all together and make it sit. And there's no point in putting bass on before that because you'll take it off. I did an album with an American band. They did some of the tracks didn't even have drums on. They had piano and they wanted bass on. I said, you won't use it because as soon as you get everything else on, the bass doesn't sound right. The bass must go on last because it's the glue and that binds everything together. You play the bass to the record.
We find that out. Wow.
Yeah, but I knew that anyway, which is why I kept saying to him, "They're not bass ready."
Yeah.
So that when I went there, I'd had all the tracks for 3 or 4 weeks, and I worked out pretty much what I wanted to do. So I'd been playing to the record. By the time I went there, I knew what the record. He didn't know what the record sounded like, but I did. I knew before he did because he'd just got his guide bass on or a synth bass or something, just blocking the part out, and then I'd come up with something a bit more eccentric or whatever.
And a lot of gaps as well, which I hadn't
I'd play space more.
Space.
Yeah, and
beautiful thing. It's what you don't play.
So in actual fact, I went in and recorded the bass parts in exactly the same order as they are on the album. So what shall we start with? So it's track 1.
Yeah.
What shall we do next? Track 2. He said, well, but that's the best song on the album. That's the real showstopper kind of thing.
Yeah,
I said, well, it's track 2.
Track 2.
Do that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's probably one of the most ambitious bass parts.
Fantastic.
And it was first take. That's it.
Boom.
1 take.
Yeah.
Kept.
So what Bruce had said
so
to
there's
me was
there's little. I could do it again, but it'd only be variations on the theme.
It had a feel, didn't it?
So that's it.
And you equaled your best.
And I can't even think that we did more than.
Some tracks were done with even fewer than one.
Fewer than one take. Yeah.
Didn't even turn up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were the most. There was a couple of patches or something.
But it equaled your best 7 tracks in one day, didn't it?
We did 7. Well, this year's model I did 7 in one day.
Your record for 7 tracks in one day. What album would that have been?
This year's model.
You felt the vibe.
All the iconic Chelsea pump it up, blah blah. Lipstick Vogue all knocked out in a day.
Incredible.
Which is I know. I've lived off that day for years. but
until recently when you bettered it.
We did. But I was quite, because I knew what I was doing, and he didn't know what I was going to do, especially like leaving gaps and changing things around, changing melodies and. And
it's a real eye opener.
So I came in and did that one, and I thought, all in one go, and he's sitting there sort of a little bit sort of, and I thought, that's got you.
It had too. I was amazed actually because
I've got you there.
I knew that Bruce had been working up parts of the songs. I knew that. That's one thing. But the approach that he took was so different and kind of out of left field to me on a lot of things as well, where you might hear it the first time and think, well, I don't know, really? Is that going to work? And the more you listen, the more you get then standing back from it and hearing the whole finished thing, you think, do you know what? That is amazing. That has made... the big thing was mastering later on during the mastering, the mixing and mastering process that kind of went hand in hand, really. Yeah. We did that over a weekend as well, basically, long weekend, didn't we? Really, Friday through Sunday.
Yeah, I did all the bass at your house in the weekend, and then Spencer came over to me for a weekend. We mixed it, it was mixed progressively, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It was mixed progressively, and then it mixed, and we mixed, and he said it's not a master yet, and then we mix it a bit more, and we'd mix it a bit more. So it's layered and layers and layers of refinement until we go, oh, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. The bass isn't right. Mainly, the key to it all was getting the bass sound right.
Yeah.
And the bass level right.
Yes, that was the other thing.
If it's too loud, the songs doesn't work. If it's too quiet, it doesn't work. It's just got to glue. Yeah. But if you push the bass too loud because you want to show off or whatever, or you pull it too quiet because you think it's just got to be a sweet. There's a sweet spot.
That's what we found.
For the tone and for the volume level, and that makes more difference to a record. I know I'm trying to talk my part up, but I learnt this from Mitchell Froome and other serious producers, that if you got to get that sweet spot and the right level and tone on the bass, otherwise you don't have a record.
Yeah. I agree. And the bass tone on this album is absolutely phenomenal. And also, I need to fortify something that you said recently, Bruce, in, I believe it was No Treble. You replied to one of the questions along the lines of, well, this is a means for me to show that, I can still play for people out there who care.
Yeah.
And I'm going to swear now.
Yeah.
Fuck that reply. I'm really sorry. Sorry, you guys okay?
Where's my smelling salts?
Yes, I'm really sorry. We've been pleasant.
The vapors.
You just have to stick with your smelling
rating
salts.
earlier. We had a 15 or a PG rating if you're from the Americas earlier. I really feel you're at the top of your game in terms of bass playing. I really do. It's everything that you love about Bruce Thomas.
It's like a
only more so,
isn't it? Yeah,
really,
exactly.
Really.
Yeah.
And so it's not just an issue of showing the world that I can do it. You can really fucking do it.
Yeah.
So well done.
Yeah.
You're right.
You need to stick at this, yeah?
Yeah, it's showing promise, isn't it?
Yeah,
as you said. I will. I'll give it a go. I'll give it a serious go. Yeah.
And I feel duty bound, and here is the gear geekery portion of the program. If you're not keen on gear chat, fast forward 4.5 minutes, and we will resume the conversation.
All right. Yeah.
Right. So gear geekery. During your first visit to the Dukey Radio Show studios, and this is the third visit here.
Yeah, it is.
And so you are part of the Dukey Radio Show family.
Yeah,
you had talked about the profile bass, your signature model bass, of which I have a version of my own to my right, and a fantastic instrument it is. Did that feature at all on this new album?
Actually, I used an old Dan Electro.
Right.
Yeah. But
I think we were even talking during the first time that you're on the Dukey Radio Show that the Dan Electro, there's just something beautiful about it. And you discovered about the glories of that bass in Nashville.
Yeah, well, I've used them since 1990. Even the last couple of Elvis records were done on one. And every time I did a session in America and I turned up with this, that and the other, they just give me a Dan Electro to play.
Right.
So... And I noticed the other day, forget what some session I was looking at, some recording session, and I thought, oh, there you go, the guy's playing a Dan Electro, £100 guitar,
but great,
£100 guitar.
And astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the actual sound quality is amazing, and short scale, isn't it?
Not the one I've got, long scale ones.
Oh, do you use a long scale one for the session? Listen, I'm not going to drop the facile word again. We've mentioned this in the last two interviews, but so you went full scale. Is that the Rumour bass, the Dan Electro Rumour?
Yeah, that's the one. There's one called the Hodad, which is the Hodad, which is like a similar kind of. body shape like the Mosrite with the longer cutaway at the bottom,
Right.
the longer horn at the bottom, and it's got 3 of those lipstick tube pickups on it. Yeah,
3 pickups.
and something like ultra trans Vista Sonic. Tune.
Yeah.
It's got this.
So that's a full 34-inch scale.
It's a full scale, yeah. And
3
what
pickups.
I've done
Looks
with
like a Mosrite.
yeah, and I've put Fender bridges on all the Dan Electros, so I've got the same.
I'm just going to ask, get the tuning
string
stability,
spacing.
So you have intonation for the nation.
Well, so I've got the same width between the strings, which change. If the strings are too close together, changes your timing a bit. And so yeah, but as we were talking about earlier, as we found out, you were saying, Spencer was saying, how do you get the different, how did you get all those different sounds? Like, because every track's got a different bass. The soul track's got a soul bass sound. The pop track sounds like McCartney. The beat group track sounds like an old boomy, and it's not even changing the sound of the guitar. The guitar was left on the same sound. It was plugged into the computer. Nothing was changed EQ wise or anything. It's all done in the fingers.
Let's see those fingers.
All done in the fingers.
Let's see those fingers.
It all depends on how you hit the strings.
Like I say,
How hard, how near the
release.
bridge, how you release them, how you it's all done with micro timing and all kinds of things like that. It's a total field thing.
What Bruce
If you
doesn't know is
think
that I wandered out.
the sound that you want, and you start moving your fingers in the way that gets that sound, if you see what I mean. If you've got the sound in your head, and you know what the possibilities are, you just move your fingers in a way that will coax that sound out of the instrument.
I was going to say that what he doesn't know is that at one point where he was doing something, and I sort of said, I'm going to wander off and make a cup of tea, because you were just having to run through something. Went out into the kitchen, and my missus was there, and I was like, he's doing it, you should see this, it's incredible. And then I sort of went, gathered myself, went back in, all right,
How are we getting on?
Everything all right here?
Okay?
I missed that bit. I didn't know about that, but that's there's the gear question. Really, it was probably more a gigging thing, because most of the records I've done have been just DI into the board.
Did they never use in the older records? I've never asked you this. Did they ever use the straight into the board and miking the amp?
On the first batch of the first incarnation of the band, we'd use amp and DI.
Yeah.
And then post whatever it was, punch the
93
clock or whatever,
Yeah.
post 1988.
Yeah.
I just DI'd.
DI. And the early...
And also, most records do the bass retrospectively rather than live.
Right.
In fact, I think I stopped doing live bass at about the same, in 88
Certainly
as
was
well.
a great way to work, though, because what we were doing in the end was we were actually mastering, producing the track sans bass completely before Bruce came onto it.
Right.
So we'd have absolute control over the bass sound. It was almost treated like 2 tracks, if you like. We'd have the whole track on one channel, kind of.
I mean,
the bass treated totally differently, and it once the whole thing was pushed together, you could see what a difference it would make by working
having
like
said that, we did a lot of quite a lot of processing on the bass at the mixing stage with multi-band compression.
Yeah.
So which is
I thought it was the Corby trouser press.
We're back onto the. It was we tried it with a trouser press, but we couldn't quite get it right.
Fair enough.
We kept the gusset kept getting overheated.
Gusset tree.
So you had an epiphany that wasn't
So
working.
we had an epiphany about that.
And next thing you know, you're using multi-band compression.
Multi-band compression is what sorts out the bass sound, and then we get it nearer, and then he'd send me stuff back to say it's not right yet, and he'd go, oh, blah, 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 and I'd go,
tweaking.
no, it's not right, keep going, and then you go, it's not right, it's too, keep, and then but we
Go
would
walk round the block
we would
and
get
think,
there in
clear
the
the
we
head,
got there in the end, but
Go back and have a listen.
most of the mixing was getting the bass sound right,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it was.
Because once we got the the levels and the other big thing was getting global reverb, as they call it, is the
reverb
other
glue.
thing that binds everything together. You put reverb on individual instruments, it's great, but they still sound like they're in their own space. Once you put I remember from doing records with people in the past, I said, shouldn't this have reverb on everything? You know, once we did that, we were away. And
well,
then
the irony is that we thought that we'd come up with something in a way, because I was saying to Bruce
we thought
that,
we discovered it, didn't we? Till we found that everyone does it.
Look at this, what a difference.
So you after everything has been mixed and lit and the levels are roughly there, you then put a bit of
reverb
on
everything.
Just a splash across the whole track.
Made
it all sound.
It binds it together.
Yeah. And lo and behold, I did a bit of
sounds
googling
like
about
the
it.
whole band's in the same room.
Yeah,
basically.
that's the thing. It sounds live and it sounds like a proper band playing. And then I find out from googling that it's a well-known standard procedure, and I wasn't aware of it. But and it really made a difference.
I remembered that it was something that you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
right
down the line. Yeah. But we were making these sort of discoveries, anew, if you like, but new to me anyway.
Well, even that thing with the way we treated the bass, and I've got onto my nephew who does dance records, and he says, "Oh yeah, I do that. I always do the compression at least 4 times, and everything." Oh, good,
Okay,
so,
all right.
But it's good. It's
But that was, it's like I say, you're making discoveries, but they're discoveries for you. It doesn't mean that they're not out there already.
We'll get a boat out at Southend one day and go, hey, look at, there's an island here. What's it?
And this thing
called
floats.
St. Lucia. St. Lucia.
Land ahoy!
Land ho!
Dear me.
In terms of your role, Spencer, and what you were bringing to the party beforehand, you're a multi-instrumentalist.
I thought you were going to say multi-millionaire.
I did, yeah.
Oh, God.
I thought you were going to say multi-personality.
I was suddenly
So
going
much
to be
for the no charge
There was going to be a
comment.
major shift in the dynamic of our relationship.
Suddenly, you're
Well, let's see. Let's see how our bet turns out.
Yeah, good point.
Hello, it's your semi-friendly factoid checker here. I sincerely hope you're enjoying Dukey's banter with Spencer and Bruce. You may have noticed that Dukey just referenced a bet. That bet refers to a horse named Drumcliff. Bruce, Dukey and Spencer put money on this horse, and at the 2 o'clock race, it came in second. The threesome lost money, but they had a jolly good time and bonded over it.
Well, that is indeed your lot. For part 1, that is. In part 2, we will explore more epiphanies and gussetry, including an answer to the cliffhanger, which will involve, dare I say, an exploration of Spencer Brown's role within the whole Back to Start album, project, enterprise, and labour of love. Bruce and Spencer are great company. We chatted for around 2 hours before pressing record, via a visit to the local betting shop, and continued with our banter at the local tavern after we'd finished this very podcast. I haven't laughed as much as I did in their company in ages. You've been listening to part 1 of our interview with Bruce Thomas and Spencer Brown. My name is Dukey and I've been your host. Until next time, may the worst of tomorrow be the best of yesterday. Thanks for listening, and enjoy part 2, which will be available for download on Monday the 4th of December. Or, if you're listening to this in the future, I hope the world is doing fine. Enjoy part 2. Now it's time for me to go and pop my weasel. Thanks for listening.
Half a pound of tuppenny rice, half a pound of treacle. That's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel.
Facebook. Click on your mouse to our Facebook page. Facebook. It's easy to find, it will not take an age. Facebook. www.facebook.com.
The Dukey Radio Show, the Dukey Radio Show. The thin white Dukey is right. Click your way to the Dukey Radio Show Facebook page, www.facebook.com/The Dukey Radio Show. The Dukey Radio Show, the Dukey Radio Show.